Welcome to the 41 and Done podcast.
Well, here we are. Welcome to the 41 and Done podcast. I'm your host, Dan Hill. Some of you may have heard the trailer. That came out in July, and here we are 3 months later. Some of you may have not, and you're just jumping into this thing dry. Brief but informative introduction. This is where I, Dan Hill, am going to bring you a problem every week that I'm having in my life, and I'm going to get through it with conversational comedy, and I'm going to figure out ways how to overcome these problems. A little bit about myself. I'm not coming into this thing dry. I currently have a podcast that I do with my wife, Jenny. It's called the Melrose Place Podcast, and that is going on strong. It is exactly what you think it is. Me and her do a podcast surrounding Melrose Place where we rewatch, recap, and analyze every single episode of the hit 90s TV series Melrose Place. So I'm coming off of that. We've been doing that for about 7 years, maybe 8 years. Damn. And then I had a podcast before that called the Dan and Cody podcast that I did with my buddy Cody. Shout out to Cody. And I really cut my teeth on that one. We did that one for a long time. I got 300 episodes of that one under my belt. But I'm coming at this fresh, enthusiastic, and energized. The thing about starting a podcast after having two already, and have done two already, is that I wanted this podcast to be perfect. I wanted everything set up before I got cracking. I wanted a podcast like Den. I wanted a whole setup behind me that looked amazing, that looked like a professional sort of podcast studio with all my Funkos and things that I like behind me. And I wanted to make this thing look extraordinarily special. And I wanted to build up a ton of a backlog, a library of episodes that I could just bring to you whenever I wanted and not have any stress about recording a podcast. But of course, none of those things happen. None of them. Even the title of this podcast, 41 and Done podcast. I am Dan Hill, and I was 41, and it's taken me an entire year and then some to bring you a podcast about being 41 and done. So, hey, shout out to fantastic graphic designer Ari for doing all of my graphics for this podcast. I realize now that it was probably a little short-sighted to title this podcast 41 and Done with me being 42. But hey, that can now be a constant reminder of why not to procrastinate. Do the shit that you want to do and be intentional and do it with fucking purpose, you know? And in times like these where I've been procrastinating starting something, I'm reminded of a quote that I heard recently by Amelia Earhart, who is one of the great American aviation pioneers, first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. She has a quote that I love, that I absolutely love, that is, the most effective way to do it is to do it. So without having all of the things that I wanted to before I started this podcast, the best way to do it is to just do it. So here we go. This podcast, I want to be completely interactive with the listeners. I want you to email me. I want you to hit me up on Twitter. I want you to hit me up on Instagram. I want you to leave me reviews. I want to take those reviews, I want to analyze them, and then I want to implement shit into the podcast. You can email me always at 41anddonepodcast@gmail.com. That's a number 4 and a number 1. The word and, the word done, the word podcast @gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram at 41 and Done podcast. And you can help me. You can contribute to this podcast by giving me money on patreon.com/41 and done podcast. Okay? These are all the ways, all the things. What's the problem this week? What's been the problem for a long, long time? What's been stewing in Dan Hill's brain? What's been pissing Dan Hill off? What is the 41 and done? I'm to tell you what it is. Before I say it, you're going to think I'm cheap. You're going to think I'm a cheapskate. This is episode 1. You have no idea what kind of person I am. Some of you do, but I'm just saying it right now. I am 41, and I am done with tipping at Starbucks. Can't do it. I just can't do it anymore. I don't like it. I don't want to do it. Every experience I've had doing it, I've resented it, and I get really pissed off anytime I even tip $1 there. And all right, full disclosure, I tip, all right? When I go to a restaurant, I'm leaving 20%. If you are really, really terrible at your job and it's your fault, maybe I'll do 15%, 18%. But 20 is my baseline. I tip at bars. When I order drinks, I will order a beer and I will give you $1 or $2 on top of it every time. It's not that I'm cheap. I will tip, but I cannot anymore rationalize tipping through the Starbucks drive-thru or at the counter. I can't do it. The way that I was brought up, I guess, or the way that I view tipping is a service, a form of gratitude for providing a service after you've experienced the service. That's my problem. The caveat being after you've experienced the service. I cannot receive a coffee from Starbucks or receive food and then tip because I have no idea. I haven't drank it. I don't know. I haven't eaten it. I don't know if it's good. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it isn't. And this entire transaction is happening fucking backwards. Does anyone else feel the same way that I do? I think it's completely weird. And I think it's really gross if we're being honest. I am at a drive-thru and I'm being asked. I'm not even being asked to tip. Here's what they fucking do. You pull up to Starbucks and you pay. I pay on my Apple Watch. I tap the Apple Watch, or I do the Apple Pay on my phone, or I give them a card and they run it. They always turn this screen around and they say the most stupidest thing. I fucking hate it when they do it. They say, it's just going to ask you a question. It's like, you know what the question is. Just say it. Are you going to tip me? That in itself is it's threatening to me. I don't like it. That's why when you're at a restaurant, the server delivers your check and they don't even call it a check. They just say, I'm going to leave this here whenever you're ready. Okay? It's like a hush thing. You don't really fucking talk about it. And then they pay, they bring it back, and then you either sign it, you leave a tip, and then you leave. There's no transaction afterwards. You don't have to worry about seeing this person after you have given them the tip. The tip is the end. And the tip is based on the fucking service that you provide. So at Starbucks, it's just going to ask you a question. This is up front. This is before I've received the goods. This is before that I've tested the goods. And I don't want to do it. I don't know. I don't know if you deserve a tip. I don't know if the coffee is good. I don't know if the food that is good. I just have no idea. What am I tipping on? What am I tipping for? What is the gratitude that I'm not even in the establishment. I'm in the car. You're making coffees. Where is this coming from that you're asking me to give you more money? It's beyond me. It's beyond me. I don't fucking get it. The other part of this that I don't like is after COVID, there was a shift in culture where people didn't want to touch devices, other screens. They didn't want to shake hands anymore. No germs. I've taken a little bit of that and past COVID, and I don't like touching screens. So now I have all of these devices where I can tap to pay. I don't have to touch the screen. I have this device where I can hold my wrist out, tap, and pay for the coffee. But now, even with those devices, even with a card, I can tap and pay with the card. Don't have to touch the device. Don't have to transfer germs. Now I am being asked, after doing all of that tapping and avoiding germs, to touch the same fucking button that you're asking every single person that comes through the drive-thru to touch. This defeats the purpose. It's stupid. This is dumb. It gives me anxiety. I get pissed the fuck off. And then you kind of got to hide. You got to be like, oh, I don't know. Where's my finger going to go? Am I going to hit $1? Or am I going to hit nope? And I know that they're watching. I know you're watching my finger and you understand like, oh, well, I know because it's facing outward. If his hand's going to go a little bit to the right. If his hand's, if he's going to tip $1, then it's going to go a little bit to the left. I don't like that either. That's why the server isn't around at a restaurant while you're writing out the tip either, because it's aggressive, it's gross, it's tacky. If your server's going to sit there and watch you pull out money for the tip, that is bullshit to me, and I fucking hate it so much. I get so pissed. I've had so many encounters where my heart is thumping by the time I receive this coffee. And they go, I don't know if they're going to ask me. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just automatically go, no tip. And I don't know if that's because of me. I don't know if it's because they're busy. I don't know if it's because they've seen me come through a couple of times and they know that I'm hitting no, so they're going to hit no for me. Fine. I would prefer that. But when they ask, I just go, I fucking hate it. It's the worst. It's one of the worst things. So I want to work through it. I want to fix this. I want to dissect it. I don't like to be this upset. And if when you're getting Starbucks like every day or every other day in the morning, it starts your day off, and that is immediately starting the path to a shit day, because I'm already pissed because I've already been asked. It's just gonna ask you a question. So where did tipping come from? Tipping in the United States has its roots in post-Civil War society, particularly in the late 19th century. Interestingly, the practice came to the U.S. from Europe. Wealthy Americans traveling to Europe in the 1850s and 1860s encountered tipping there, where it was custom among aristocrats who would tip their servants as an extra reward. See, even back then, it was an extra reward based on services provided, not up front, Starbucks. Not up front. However, the practice of tipping didn't initially take off in the U.S. smoothly. Many Americans were uncomfortable with it, as it was seen as aristocratic and even anti-democratic. The discomfort was so significant that some states like Iowa attempted to outlaw tipping in the early 20th century. Now, as tipping spread, it found a foothold, particularly in industries where workers were black and often newly freed individuals. Yeesh. Restaurant and railroad industries realized that they could pay low or even no wages with the expectation that customers would provide tips to compensate. Isn't that fucking cool? All these owners of companies were like, hey, let's not pay them shit because we know people are going to tip them because they feel bad for them. That actually still happens today. That still happens today, man. I've worked in the restaurant industry. I was a server at many different restaurants. And yeah, you rely on those tips. You provide good service so that you can get tips. And we were making like, I don't know, the restaurant minimum wage was like $3 or $4 or whatever. And then, but you know, your checks are basically nothing. You only work on the cash, and you'd be brought home like whatever, 50, 60, 100, $300, you know, $200, whatever. And that's how you lived. You just lived on the cash. But this isn't the case at Starbucks, man. This isn't the case. They're making anywhere from $15 to $24 an hour based on, where you're starting at, what your experience is. So not only are you getting that wage, you're also getting tipped now. The exploitation of tipping practices meant employers could minimize labor costs by shifting wages responsibilities onto customers. This practice became legally embedded, and in 1938, the Fair Labor Standards Act allowed for a tipped minimum wage, which let employers pay less than the minimum wage as long as tips made up the difference. Yeah, this is what I explained in the restaurant industry. Tipping policies at Starbucks have evolved over time and with different approaches for various forms of payment. In 2013, as digital payments and mobile apps became more popular, Starbucks introduced an option for customers to tip digitally through its mobile app. This allowed customers who didn't carry cash to leave a tip, helping adapt tipping to the growing cashless economy. Today, tipping at Starbucks remains optional, but they fucking force it on you, so it's not really optional, because if you don't do it, you feel like a piece of shit, but if you do it, you're like, fuck, I just paid another $1 on an expensive coffee that isn't that fucking good. Today, tipping at Starbucks remains optional, with options for both cash tips and digital tips on the app or through the POS system at some locations. This flexibility has helped Starbucks keep pace with customer preferences and the shifting culture around tipping in the service industry. I said earlier, look, as of 2024, the minimum wage at Starbucks is anywhere from $15 to $24, depending on where you live. This follows a broader wage initiative to retain staff and improve employee conditions, including recent increases tied to length of service, with workers of 2 to 5 years receiving a 4% raise, and those with over 5 years receive a 5% raise. This initiative launched in early 2024, and it builds on previous wage adjustments from prior years as the company continues to address inflation and labor market demands. However, wage policies and benefits vary between unionized and non-unionized stores due to ongoing labor negotiations and legal constraints. So, Starbucks, they have a labor union. They unionized, began in 2021 when employees at a Buffalo, New York store voted to join the union, making the first company-owned Starbucks location, making them the first location to successfully unionize. Since then, union drives have spread to hundreds of other Starbucks stores nationwide. They've advocated for better wages, benefits, and working conditions, and they seek a stronger voice in company decisions. One of those company decisions was bringing tipping to the kiosks and the drive-thru. So the Starbucks Workers United, they pushed for tipping as part of its efforts to secure better compensation for employees. During the unionization movement, baristas and union advocates argued that allowing customers to tip through credit and debit card payments would significantly boost income for many workers, as cash tips had become less common in the increasingly cashless society. This benefit has been central to union demands, along with other improvements like higher wages, better scheduling, and additional benefits. Starbucks originally resisted allowing digital tipping, but as unionization efforts grew, the company began implementing credit card tipping at certain locations in 2023. This is it's a widespread thing throughout Starbucks that you don't have to, but you're being asked to tip. You know, some people are fine with it. Some people don't give a shit. But, some people aren't me. I get really fucking pissed off when I am being asked to tip on something that I have not received and that I haven't checked. So what did I want to do when I went to Starbucks and they put that fucking thing in my face and say, it's just going to ask you a question? I wanted to like just push the machine back at them and be like, nah, I'm not fucking with that. I'm not doing it. I refrain from that. I will not touch the device. Thank you. And then see what they would do. But I was always scared to do that. I didn't want to be like a big prick in the drive-thru. But like, you know, when you're in these situations and you get mad, I play out like alternate realities in my head of what I would have done. I romanticize what I would have done, what I should have done. I play it in my head. Like, I'm going to ask you a question. Should I tip you? That was one. Yeah, just like one time I actually did do it. I was like, I forget what I said. It was something like they were like, now it's going to ask you a question, and I was like, I don't want to touch the screen. I was like, I don't touch screens, and he was just like, oh, okay. And so I don't know. Did he charge? Did he add $1, or did he put no? Who knows? But I didn't feel good doing that either. It's sort of an argument at that point. I don't want to have that argument every day. I want to just be happy. I want them to be happy, you know? I guess you could go through the drive-thru and be like, 1 vanilla latte and I will not be tipping, so click no when I come through the drive-thru. That sounds really weird. It'd be confusing, I bet. Here we go, you know? How does this make me feel? It makes me feel sad and pissed off in the morning when I go and get coffee. And some of you may be asking, like, dude, why is he so opposed to giving $1 or $2 or whatever every time he goes to the Starbucks? And I don't know. Well, I do know. I already told you. It's principle, almost. I don't want to touch the screen because I've kind of got this germy thing going on from COVID. I don't want to touch that fucking screen. And I do a lot of things to not touch the screen. And if you're just going to put the screen in my face to click, I have to push it. I have to hit no, and I have to hit yes. That's also part of the problem. You have to touch the screen. It is another hoop to jump through. I don't like the song and dance. The most annoying part about it is I think it's the way that they ask you without asking you. They put the ownership on the device that they're handing you. They say, it's just going to ask you a question. And I think I don't know, it's just really annoying that they won't say, are you going to tip me? Click yes or no for the tip. Like, just say it. You're putting it in my face. I know what it is. You know what it is. You're asking me, would I like to give you more money on top of it? It's difficult, man. It's troubling, and it has really, like, pissed me off. Now, what to do? What can I do to get this problem out of my life? How do we fix this shit? I can either tip and shut the fuck up and go about my merry day and just factor that into when I'm going to go get a coffee. I can just always give them $1, even when it sucks, and I can just eat that every single time I go to Starbucks. Or I can just not tip. But I will always have that thought in my head of like, they fucking hate me because I didn't tip and I'm a piece of shit. I don't want to feel like that. I just want to buy the coffee. And I'm not even, I guess I don't appreciate the work that they're doing to make the coffee that much. You're making the coffee and you're pouring it in the cup and then you're handing it to me. I'm not sitting down in that establishment. I'm not asking for additional shit. I'm in my car. I don't think it's a tippable transaction. That's where I'm at. I could pay cash. I could just hand them cash and then they have to hand me back cash. Then they don't ask it's going to ask you a question thing because I haven't paid with a card or the watch or Apple Pay, whatever. So that's an avenue. But then I got to keep cash on me. I don't really like keeping cash on me. I can go inside, but I think the machines are there too. Or ultimately, I could just not go to Starbucks. And to be honest, like that is the key here. It's like if you are upset, what I've learned is if you are upset with the situation, the best thing that you can do is remove yourself from that situation. Change the habit that is causing the frustration. You know, if I didn't like wearing a pair of shoes because they were uncomfortable every day, I'd stop wearing the fucking shoes. And that's what I've done. That's what I've been doing. I just stopped going to Starbucks, y'all. And I've felt miles better about it. I'm saving money. I was going every day. I was going sometimes 2 times a day. And I'm getting asked this question over and over and over again, and I am just losing money. I think part of it was like, dude, I knew it going into Starbucks. I knew, Dan, you are blowing your money. You're blowing $6 or $7 a hit, a pop. And that's if you don't get a Marshmallow Dream Bar, which I usually was, or like a chocolate croissant and the coffee. So it's probably like $9, $9 a pop, $18 a day. And then they're asking me if I want to tip. I can't, in the afternoon, I can't be like, well, I already tipped on that, so I'm not going to tip now. No, just paying $18 a day. So I was like, fuck it. I'm not going to Starbucks anymore. And then I avoid the question altogether. So, and I felt really great about it. I've actually felt the money too. The money's back in my wallet. I'm not giving it to those people. I don't like the way that they tip. And this shit goes for a lot of things in life, man. If you don't like it, don't fucking do it. Don't support it. Don't keep going. They're not going to change. All of my arguments with them haven't changed. They still ask you. It sucks. But, you know, hey, I'm saving money. I'm not pissing off somebody at Starbucks because I'm not tipping. And I don't have the problem. I don't feel that anger in the morning every day anymore. It's great. So this was a happy solution. You don't like Starbucks? You don't like tipping? Don't go to Starbucks. Done. I'm not done tipping in general. Tipping is important in a lot of other industries, like the restaurant industry. When you're sitting down, you're receiving a meal, it's good. You tip. You have to. You're at a bar, you tip. You get an Uber now. I think you tip, unless they suck. You get Uber Eats. You get, Postmates, whatever. You need to tip. Those are services rendered, and they've provided you a service. I don't know. Maybe my beef is fully with just like the coffee industry. I don't value the process. I don't think it's tippable. Hey, you know what? With this tipping thing, maybe I've got it all wrong. Maybe I am missing something. And that's where you come in. I want feedback. I want you to reach back out to me and let me know. Tell me, Dan, you are being an idiot. You are missing it. This is why you need to tip. I need that feedback. I want to hear it. Or if you agree with me, like right on. I never thought about that. I'm not going to do it either. I want to hear from you. Email me 41anddonepodcast@gmail.com. Love it. I don't know. Who knows? So that's it. I'm 41 and I'm done with tipping at Starbucks.
We'll be right back.
Through my podcasting career, I have met a bunch of independent podcasters, and I've become good friends with a lot of them. And one of those podcasts is Those Movie Guys podcast with Joe and Phil. And there was a segment on their podcast that I absolutely loved. It was a, TV film review podcast, and they used to do a segment called What You Watchin'. Not only did Joe agree to let me do the segment on my new podcast, but he also let me borrow the jingle that they would use to open the segment that was recorded by the Gasoline Gypsies. So, Joe, thank you so much. I will do what I can with What You Watchin'.
And now for What you watching?
Okay, here we go. My first What You Watching. I've watched a lot of stuff because I've been traveling, but I want to start with 2017's Wind River. I never even heard about this movie, and I was lucky enough to watch it because, it was absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. It came out in 2017. I never even heard about it. Here's a synopsis. A wildlife officer who is haunted by a tragedy that happened because of him teams up with an FBI agent in solving a murder of a young woman on a Wyoming Native American reservation and hopes to get redemption from his past regrets. Now, this one came and went. It slipped me. It slipped by me, but I'm telling you, it is a winner. I highly recommend it. If you love crime, if you love drama, if you love snow, this is your movie. And also, it's got a great cast, man. Got an absolutely great cast. Elizabeth Olsen, Jeremy Renner. You know who else pops up in this thing? My boy Shane from Walking Dead. The Punisher himself. John motherfucking Bernthal. Never ceases to amaze. I highly recommend this movie. Check it out. This movie I watched, I hadn't watched this one in a long time, but man, it still hits. It still hits. It's an amazing film. 1998's Saving Private Ryan. It's funny because when we were watching this, Jenny was telling me that, she had never seen it all the way through and never understood who Private Ryan was. I was like, this it's just been out since 1998, and she had no idea that the story itself was about saving a Private Ryan who ends up being Matt Damon. I mean, you got to know about this movie. If you don't, you've been living under a rock. Tom Hanks, Matt Damon, Tom Sizemore. The cast is incredible. Adam Goldberg, Barry Pepper, Vin Diesel, Giovanni Ribisi, Jeremy Davies, Ted Danson, Paul Giamatti. The list goes on. It is an absolutely amazing, epic World War II war film that is shot expertly by Steven Spielberg and captures, the essence of World War II warfare and dives deep into a group of soldiers who have a new side mission that becomes the main mission to save Matt Damon, Private Ryan. If you haven't watched this, you are doing yourself an extreme disservice. Watch Saving Private Ryan immediately. Keeping on the World War II theme, I finally got around to watching The Zone of Interest, which came out in 2023, which was a really, really interesting, kind of fucked up movie in the sense that, it takes place, Auschwitz commandant Rudolf Haas and his wife Hedwig strive to build a dream life for their family in a house and garden beside the camp, Auschwitz. So the entire film is, basically this family living on this beautiful land, but just right over the fence is one of the most horrific concentration camps. And the dad works at the concentration camp, and it's a real great film. I feel like it's a real testament to what humans are willing to sort of turn a blind eye to live a life that they are accustomed to or comfortable with or would like to be accustomed to. You should check it out. It's a great movie. It's beautifully shot. And I thought, it's really, really interesting that you don't see anything terrible happening at Auschwitz, but you hear it over the fence. And this family just turns a blind eye to it, and it is really, really gut-wrenching. You should check it out. All right, next movie I saw, which was kind of a dud, 2024's Lisa Frankenstein. This one was directed by Robin Williams' daughter, Zelda Williams, and it stars Catherine Newton and Liza Soberano and Jenna Davis. I don't have very nice things to say about this movie. I guess, no, I don't know. It's not okay. Here's the synopsis. A coming-of-age love story about a teenager and her crush, who happens to be a corpse. After a set of horrific circumstances bring him back to life, the two embark on a journey to find love, happiness, and a few missing body parts. So it's quirky. I guess it's kind of cute if you're into that, but basically this girl is odd and finds her love, buried in a cemetery, brings him back to life. He's a Frankenstein type of person, and the whole movie, she's murdering people that are in her life and giving the body parts to this Frankenstein character and basically building the man of her dreams. You can skip it. I also watched Netflix's 2024 future Christmas classic, Hot Frosty. Here's the synopsis of this one. Widow Kathy magically brings a snowman to life. His innocence helps her heal and find love again. They bond before the holidays, but he's doomed to melt. This one stars Dustin Milligan, who plays Jack the Snowman. Lacey Chabert, she is from Mean Girls and Party of Five. Lauren Holly, Katie Mixon, Sherry Miller, Joe Lo Truglio, who's pretty funny. Trishelle Stoss and Craig Robinson, who's also super funny. He's you need him in the movie basically to make this watchable. But it was fine. If you really here's the thing. I absolutely love terrible Christmas movies. It is my mission every late November and December, to consume as much trash Christmas and just cute Christmas movies that I can. It puts me in the season. Since we live in LA, we don't get many. It's not very seasonal. It doesn't get that cold. It doesn't really feel like Christmas unless you jam Christmas down your throat. And I do that by playing none other than Coast 103.5 all of December, listening to Christmas music and putting as much Christmas movies into my eyeballs for a month. That's how I get it done. So if that's your mission, this is a fine movie. But if you're looking for some Oscar-worthy performances and fantastic storytelling that's going to get nominated for Oscars, this ain't your movie, okay? Check it out. I fucking love Fargo, the TV show, and I finally, because I'm such a procrastinator, here's what we do. Here's what me and Jenny do. We watch great TV, and then we watch it up to a point, and then we wait till we have about 4, 5, maybe even 2 episodes left, and we just stop watching it. And I think subconsciously it is because we don't want it to end and we want to just have something there for us to watch later, but that's what we do. And we did it with season 5 of Fargo. So I made it my mission to finally get through it. I binged the last 4 episodes, and holy shit, that is great television. If you are not watching these Fargo shows, it's on Hulu. You can rent it on Prime Video. You gotta watch it. Fargo's amazing. John Hamm delivers. Man, Juno Temple from Ted Lasso, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Joe Keery. I mean, it is an amazing show. You need to watch it. Put it in your eyes right now. And then the last movie that I've recently watched is 2024's Love Lies Bleeding. Whoa. This was intense. But I liked it. I dug it. Here's the synopsis. Reclusive gym manager Lou falls hard for Jackie. An ambitious bodybuilder headed through town to Vegas in pursuit of her dream, but their love ignites violence, pulling them deep into the web of Lou's criminal family. Lou is played by Kristen Stewart, and Jackie is played by Katie O'Brien. Dave Franco's in this. Ed Harris is in this. It is a really, really sort of fast-paced crime drama that has a wild ending, and there are some twists and turns in this thing that I just did not see coming. It is a really fun watch, and you need to watch it to the end. It's a good one. Director is Ross Glass. I really recommend it. You should check it out.
We'll be right back after this.
There's a lot of days out there. There's a lot of national days that everyone freaks out about. So I wanna cover the national days. Today is Veterans Day, which is a real national day. It is on the calendar. It is a federal holiday, and I think that it's important to recognize our veterans that have served in the military. We thank them, we love them, and we celebrate them. And we appreciate the day off. Some other national days coming up. National French Dip Day is November 12th. Do you guys like French dips? I think they're a little messy. November 12th is also National Chicken Soup for the Soul Day. And it is also National Pizza with the Works Except Anchovies Day. These are stupid. These are dumb. How did they become days? How? French Dip Day. How to observe National French Dip Day. As always, the best way to celebrate every day is to introduce a friend to a French dip and get one for yourself too. Be sure to take a photo and share using National French Dip Day to share on social media. While you're at it, show us your dunking style. Give us your best dipping tips. Guys, what are we doing here? What are we doing? What are we doing? Cole's French Dip is the originator of the French dip sandwich, founded National French Dip Day in 2018 in honor of the 110th anniversary of their opening on November 12th, 1908 in historic downtown Los Angeles. The registrar at National Day calendar proclaimed the observance to be observed annually on November 12th. Well, there you have it, man. November 12th is your day for French dips. Get in there, get your sandwich and fucking dip it. Dip it and drip it. Be right back. 41 and done. Had a fun story today. Wasn't so fun. I was running. I like to run. I'm a 4-time marathoner, if you will. So I know a little bit about running, I guess you could say. I was running, doing 6 miles. That's usually my baseline. And I run down this trail that it's a paved trail, but it's up against like a sort of a river that is dried up in some areas. And I think the city is trying to pump some water in there so they can get some greenery in there and sort of combat the homeless folks who like to set up camp in this little dried up river area so that they can't move around as freely. But anyway, I'm running. I'm on mile 5, and I see this kid. It's one side of the trail is fenced off from neighborhoods, and the other side of the trail is fenced off so that you don't go into the dried up river area. And these kids were on the fenced off portion, and they're waving. I've got my headphones on, and they're waving at me, and I stop. I'm like, all right, what's up? And they're like, hey, our ball went over the edge in that river area. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, can you get it? And I was like, God damn it. Like, I'm not I'm a nice person. I like to think that I'm a nice person. And I said to myself, well, if you're a nice person, then this is what a nice person would do. They would help these kids in their young teens, maybe preteens, get their soccer ball. So I stop my run and I look over the fence that's going into this river. There's a major decline to get to a paved decline to get into the river to get their ball. And their ball was in this really tall green, I don't know what to call it, like marshy. It's a little marshy area because there is water running through it, and so fucking greenery and stuff is growing, and there's all kinds of stuff. And I see the ball and I'm like, fuck, okay, I'll do it. So I go under the fence like a WWE wrestler, getting into the ring, just kind of slide under there. And this fucker is steep. I didn't realize how steep it was, so I start slipping. And I'm like, all right, so then I just get on my butt, basically, and have my knees bent, and I'm just kind of sliding down this slide, and I get down to the bottom, and then I'm like, all right, just get the ball and let's go. I step down into I think it's just going to be a little puddle. It's not a little puddle. Both of my feet are fucking submerged into water, ruining my shoes and essentially ruining the run. There's no way I'm going to run the other one with these wet ass shoes on. So I'm down there and I'm like, okay, great. This is awesome. And then I get the ball and they're like, oh shit. They realize my fucking day is shot at this point. So I throw the ball up over the fence, and I'm an idiot because it bounces, and then there was a possibility of it bouncing back and then rolling back down in another area into the same marshy fucking spot that I was at, but it didn't. Thank God it didn't. And then I'm trying to get out of this thing, and now that my feet are wet, I'm sliding on this incline now. And they're seeing me struggle, and I'm like, God, fuck. What am I going to do? So I try to dry the bottoms of my feet off on the pavement, and then I'm trying to go up sideways, and I mosey up, and I'm halfway there, and I get through, and I get under. I go back under the fence, and they have the ball now, and they say thanks. They're appreciative, and then I just go, Yep. And then I turn my headphones back on, and then I try to run maybe I don't know. I take a I run for maybe another 2 minutes, and then I can't. I'm sloshing around. It's whoosh, 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 every time my feet hit the pavement. And I'm like, well, you're done. You're going to walk this last mile to get the 6. But I got the 6, and now I've got to wash those shoes. So that was fun today. It was good times. But I'm glad those kids have their ball, and I hope that when they are 42 and another kid asks them to get a ball, they remember that dude who stopped running and got our ball, got their ball. Hell yeah. Be good people, man. But don't tip at Starbucks. Fuck that shit. Oh, man. So, hey, man, that was fun. I'm glad we got one in the books. I think I had a good time. I feel better. Getting that off of my chest, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Maybe you'll think about some shit that's pissing you off and try to dive in, see how you can fix it, see how you can change it, or maybe send it my way. Maybe I can try to fix it for you. I want to thank you guys so much for listening, and I also want to let you know, if you hate the podcast, if you hate listening, if you think you can, do it better then, bitch.
Thanks for listening to the 41 and Done podcast. We'll see you next time. You can follow the podcast on Instagram at 41 and Done podcast. Make sure you follow, like, and subscribe.
Bye-bye. See ya.